Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Our top story today is the Hanuman Chalisa row that's happening in Maharashtra. After threatening to recite Hanuman Chalisa outside Madurai, which is Maharashtra Chief Minister's residence, independent MLA Ravi Rana and his wife MP Navneet Rana have cancelled their plan, and this comes after Shiv Sena workers early today broke barricades and attempted to enter their residence. The police, however, said that the situation was brought under control and requested both of them to not step out of the house. A police officer was quoted saying, and I quote, "If they step out, the law and order situation may go out of hand," end quote. Now, the couple had announced earlier that they would recite Hanuman Chalisa to ward off the calamities, and I quote, that have been hitting the state ever since Uddhav Thackeray took over as chief minister, end quote. Now, post this, this is news that's just coming in that says that Mumbai police has now arrested both of them. The police officials have taken them to Khar police station. There were also comments that came in from other ministers. State Home Minister Dilip Valse Patil, for instance, reacting to this incident, has said, and I quote, "All those who want to read Hanuman Chalisa can read it inside their homes," end quote. Meanwhile, senior Sena leader Sanjay Raut, also commenting on the incident, said that the party leaders don't need police protection as, and I quote, "Sainiks are capable of protecting themselves," end quote. Moving on from the story right now, the Enforcement Directorate has registered a money laundering case against various suspects of Jahangirpuri violence case in Delhi, including prime accused Mohammad Ansar. Now, Delhi Police Commissioner Rakesh Asthana had earlier written to the ED to probe this particular case, recommending a probe by the agency. In fact, the BJP and AAP have been trading charges over the communal violence, each claiming that Ansar had links with the other. Now, to give you a bit of a context, clashes broke out between two communities during a Hanuman Jayanti procession in Delhi's Jahangirpuri on 16th of April. 8 police personnel and a local resident were subsequently injured. Also in the news, expressing concern over the content shown on TV channels, the centre has issued an advisory asking channels to refrain from airing misleading and sensational content coverage of the northwest Delhi violence and the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Now, the advisory said that television channels must strictly comply with the program code. The code requires channels to avoid airing content that offends against good taste and decency and targets religions or communities, among other things. Now, the advisory said that the government expressed serious concern about the flagged issues and asked channels to, and I quote, "immediately refrain from publishing and transmitting any content which is violative of the aforementioned provisions of the Cable Television Networks Regulation Act 1995, end quote. Meanwhile, according to a report by PTI, the CBSE has dropped chapters about the non-aligned movement, the Cold War era, the rise of Islamic empires in Afro-Asian territories, the chronicles of Mughal courts, and the Industrial Revolution from the history and political science syllabi of classes 11 and 12. And this is a report according to PTI, which says that in the class 10 syllabus, the topic impact of globalization on agriculture from a chapter on food security has also been dropped. The translated excerpts from 2 poems in Urdu by Faiz Faiz in the Religion, Communalism and Politics, Communalism, Secular State section have also been excluded this year. Now, a senior board official has told PTI, and I quote, "Considering the feedback of stakeholders and other prevailing conditions, the board is in favor of conducting the annual scheme of assessment at the end of the academic session 2022-23, and the curriculum has been designed accordingly," end quote. Also in the news, an update on the Khargone violence in Madhya Pradesh. The Madhya Pradesh police on Friday has arrested a man accused of firing at Superintendent of Police Siddharth Chaudhary during the communal clashes that took place on the 10th of April. Now, in the meantime, the curfew in Khargone was relaxed for 9 hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The city, however, has been under curfew since the clashes took place on the 10th of April, where some people had allegedly hurled stones at a Ram Navami procession, objecting to loud and provocative music being played in the Talab Chowk area of Khargone. Subsequently, in other areas, clashes broke out as well. Moving on now, the University Grants Commission and All India Council for Technical Education have advised students not to travel to Pakistan for higher education, saying that those degrees will not be valid in India. However, this will not be applicable to migrants who have been granted Indian citizenship. Moving on, the centre has now appointed economist Suman K Bery as the new NITI Aayog vice chairperson, replacing Rajiv Kumar. Mr. Bery will assume the role of vice chairperson from the 1st of May. Some distressing news coming in from Tamil Nadu. According to the Hindu, 3 workers died of asphyxiation after inhaling poisonous gas while repairing a sewage pumping station in Madurai on Thursday night. Now, 3 of them fell into the tank after inhaling poisonous gases. While 218 deaths of the past 29 years have been recorded in Tamil Nadu, it's just one below Gujarat, which has recorded 153 deaths in the same period. And this is according to data from the National Commission for Safai Karmacharis. Now, India has banned the practice under the Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and the Rehabilitation Act 2013. The act bans the use of any individual for manually cleaning, carrying, disposing of, or otherwise handling in any manner human excreta till its full disposal. Moving on now to COVID roundup. Let's start with the numbers. India has reported 2,527 new COVID cases and 33 deaths in the last 24 hours. It's slightly higher from what we had reported yesterday, which was at 2,451 new COVID cases. A major chunk of the cases are coming in now from Delhi, which reported 1,042 fresh COVID cases yesterday. Also, according to an IIT Madras study, Delhi's R value stands at 2.1 this week, indicating that every COVID positive person is infecting 2 other residents in the city. Now, the R or reproductive value indicates the number of people an infected person can spread the disease to, and the pandemic is considered to end if this value goes below 1. On to business news right now. In its second supplementary charge sheet, the Enforcement Directorate has said that Yes Bank co-founder Rana Kapoor and DHFL promoters Kapil and Dheeraj Wadhwan laundered money worth 5,050 crore rupees. Now, during the investigation, it's come to light that a big part of the proceeds of crime generated in this case has been siphoned off overseas by Rana Kapoor, and hence they are not available for attachment directly under the provisions of the PMLA. Now, Rana Kapoor is currently in judicial custody following his arrest in the case which took place in March 2020. Wadhwans are also in jail custody for another case. On to environment news. Scientists have said that Europe has witnessed its warmest summer on record in 2021, with temperatures a full 1 degree Celsius higher than the average for the previous 3 decades. Now, however, the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service has found that spring 2021 was in fact cooler than average. The high temperatures can be attributed to wildfires that were seen in Siberia, Greece, and Turkey last year. According to experts, it increased the likelihood of heavy rainfall, similar to the deadly flooding that took place in Belgium and Germany last July. Moving on to international news, starting off with what's happening in Afghanistan. According to the Associated Press, at least 33 citizens, including many students, were killed in a bombing at a mosque and religious school in northern Afghanistan on Friday. Now, 43 people were injured. A string of bombings rocked the country this week, with deadly attacks targeting a school and a mosque as well. Meanwhile, it is day 59 of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. Ukrainian president has said that Russia's attack on Ukraine is only a beginning and that Moscow wants to capture other countries as well. His comments come after Russian military hinted at Russian expansion into Moldova. In the meantime, according to a report by Reuters, an advisor to Ukraine's presidential office has said that Russian forces have resumed airstrikes on the steel plant in Mariupol and were trying to storm it. Now, Putin had earlier ordered the Russian military to not to storm the plant and instead to block it off in an apparent attempt to stifle the remaining pocket of resistance there. Ukrainian officials have estimated that about 2,000 of their troops are inside the plant, along with about 1,000 civilians sheltering in the facility's underground tunnels as well. One piece of good news before we wrap things up here on this bulletin. To reduce the carbon footprint, the National Thermal Power Corporation Limited has collaborated with Delhi Jal Board to convert sludge produced in the latter's sewage treatment plants into energy. Now, sewage treatment plants produce up to 800 metric tons of sludge per day. Disposing the sludge is a huge issue as it contributes towards environmental pollution. So that's good news coming in from Delhi. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night. Have a happy weekend.